Thank you.
Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us. John, I know you don't do these often, so genuinely appreciate your time to come and talk with us. I'm sure there's lots we can learn. We'll get straight to it. You're going through what's been described as the merger of the century between Omnicom, your company, and IPG. They are two of the big five holding companies in advertising and media. Your company is 287th, I think, on the Fortune 500. Why is this something Omnicom needs to do? Why is it important?
Sure. I think we're 187.
Oh, really?
We've fallen to 287.
I'll check it.
But we'll move up with this. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. Interpublic, Omnicom, and the others have all been competing successfully for the last 35, 40 years. And we all have our own cultures, our own unique approach to things. And up until now, with the changes in the marketplace, the introduction of technology, which affects everything that we do, there's been no real reason or impetus for us to get together. This past couple of years, it's become more and more obvious that in order to stay at the cutting edge of all the necessary tools and things that we have to provide our employees in order to properly service clients, it made more sense to actually look at the two of us coming together for the first time. We are both, we're both American-based, which makes it easier from a mechanical point of view. Culturally, our companies have shared employees over the years, and so our cultures are known to each one of the employee bases that are coming together. But more importantly, with the use of data, AI, they've made certain acquisitions. We've made very serious investments in an operating system called Omni, which is meant to inform, educate, and facilitate the needs of every one of our employees. The assets that they have selected, they probably haven't been able to operationalize those as well as we have, but they're jewels. I mean, they have one asset in particular called Axiom, which is the gold standard of data, which when ingested into our Omni network, our Flywheel, which deals with retail and consumer activity, gives us the best view of a consumer. And it allows us to create unique IDs for every individual around the world, where we can then start to target and to influence that potential consumer and educate them in a way that respects their privacy, but delivers them the information that they need in order to make an informed choice. So the merger of the two companies is a huge opportunity, and it's once in a lifetime.
Do you see it as sort of future-proofing Omnicom for the future?
It's about as close as you can get to at any point in time at future-proofing Omnicom for the future. It will, the idea behind the transaction was the quality of the tools, the quality of the information, the amount of free cash flow that both companies will generate, so we can make increasing investments, both in the technology as it quickly changes, but also in other areas that are of interest to our clients and allow us to develop real relationships with.
Now, this isn't your first rodeo in the merger space.
No.
You went through an attempted merger in 2014 when Omnicom tried to merge with Publicis.
Yes.
I've read you previously said you've still got the scars from that attempted merger. Yeah. What's the single biggest lesson that you learned from the past attempt that you're determined not to repeat this time around?
Sure, probably clarity. Clarity is very important. Where the merger 10 years ago fell down there wasn't that clarity. That was cast as a merger of equals, where there wasn't going to be clarity. There wasn't going to be a single point of decision-making that people could look to to get the comfort that they needed, that they were in the right place and somebody was caring about their careers. That's probably the biggest learning, and there weren't really as many scars, even though I have said that, as there was education, quite an education. One that took 9 months before it dissolved. But in this case, Omnicom's acquiring IPG. Now we're treating them with the exact same respect as if it was a merger of equals, because they have incredibly talented people who have fabulous client relationships with some of the biggest marketers in the world. So we're treating them as if we are merging equals. And Philippe, who's the current CEO of Interpublic, is certainly joining and planning to stay with the company when it comes together. He's joining the board of directors. So there is that level of respect, but there will be clarity in terms of direction, in terms of how we're going to go about doing things.
And there is planned to be a single point of direction and a single point of leadership, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of information and a lot of discovery that still has to go on because of the regulatory constraints that you're under during this period of time. You can't get as granular as you need to get. But the guiding principle for this merger is going to be first the client, and second the client, and you're going to have to get very long down the list before you don't put as a priority the client. And the people that clients depend upon, whether they're Omnicom employees or Interpublic employees, if you're in that position and you are contributing to a client's success, you're absolutely going to have a fabulous career in the new Omnicom when it's created.
So let's talk about clients and culture for a second.
Sure.
What can clients get from this new Omnicom IPG combo that they couldn't get before, or can't get on the market?
Well, there'll be, Omnicom is already, I mean, interesting. You go back to that 10-year question, and you look at the marketplace now, 10 years later, and the two most successful holding companies are both Omnicom and Publicis. So the idea was great 10 years ago. The approach to it wasn't too good. This time around, especially with AI and how that is emerging and how we are deploying it to aid our employees to make them better and smarter and be able to do things faster. The thought that if we weren't merging, our two companies would have to make those investments individually to create more or less a similar approach to how you're going to deploy AI in the needs of clients. With us together, we can focus on one platform, one set of tools, and we can white label them and democratize them for the use of 120,000 to-be employees of the company around the world. And clients will benefit from that. There's other things which, as we get more and more into the planning, we'll discover that clients have been spending money on certain tools and things in Interpublic, like in Axiom, and spending money with us. And quite frankly, no client has really insisted upon bringing both of us into the room to say, how could you work together to create a better product, a more efficient product for us? But now that we're coming together, we're seeing these things and saying, oh, geez, we can't wait to get started, because we can bring untapped value to you that some clients have been more assertive about, but most clients have not. So it's a tremendous opportunity.
You mentioned AI and data. How do you practically see generative AI reshaping the creative work that your agencies offer?
Well, we have been making serious investments in AI now for most serious investments since mid last year. And where we're testing and trying to break all the large language models as they evolve and as they change every week. And I think as of yesterday, we probably had 6,500 of our employees who have been embedded and allowed to use these tools to see the extent of which we can use them for an application to make the campaigns and the information we're gathering for clients faster, quicker, which allows for better decision making, faster decision making, better deployment. when you think about the landscape of where we are today, the velocity and the volume of messaging that you receive and everybody in the audience receives every day, takes a lot of care and automation. Now that's evolved and it's only going to get faster, and hopefully the fidelity of the information gets cleared up as we try to break these systems and as we try to utilize them for the benefit of our clients. You know, in the past, if you were doing an advertising campaign and you wanted a scene in Tokyo, you know, some rain or whatever, you know, an artist would have to spend the time to create those storyboards and the rest of it. That can be generated in 15 seconds now. And if you don't like it, you can spend the balance of that time fixing it, altering it, making it more applicable to your audiences.
You can say, I want to go to Sydney now, and you don't have to get that person to
That's
go to
it.
yeah.
You can see.
Now, what about people? Because culture is often somewhere where a lot of mergers and acquisitions fall down.
Yes.
How are you planning to blend both companies' company cultures? For example, I imagine just by the scale of both companies, not every business has the same return to office policy or hybrid work policy. How are you planning to blend those cultures?
Sure. At the core of my business is talent. My assets come in and out of buildings or go in and out of their homes every single day. And what clients are really hiring is the talent that's going to work on their engagement. Now, both companies our cultures are similar, they really are. But the culture for an employee really emanates back to the brand that they're working for. And as part of this process, we're going to respect those brands. We're going to first go and listen to their clients to figure out which must be kept and which must not. For the most part, it's a very easy decision because the brands that most of the employees are associated with are very successful, established brands in the marketplace. That's not going to be at risk with respect to this. We're going to maintain, we're going to honor those brands, and we'll move forward respecting those cultures. In terms of the policies, in terms of return to the office, other things, there'll probably be a couple of disruptions depending upon who you are, where you are, and what market. But for the most part, we've been very flexible about that as well. We have not insisted that people come back 5 days a week, but we have insisted they come back 3 days a week. At least that's in the States. Other markets around the world, you get different attendance because of different customs and opportunities. And we found that that's a sensible balance between our employees' needs, some of the habits that they learned during COVID, and the needs of our clients and our businesses. The other thing that we've done is we used COVID as an opportunity. Take New York for an example. New York probably have 10,000 employees at Omnicom. What we did during COVID is we said, people have gotten used to taking their kids to school or going to their events or doing various things. So what we did is we abandoned buildings, we gave up leases in New York, and then we went out to the 3 corners, that surround New York, the suburban areas. We looked at where employees live, and then we started leasing spaces that they could come to that were within a 20-minute drive of their home. That gave them the flexibility. So we insisted that they come back to the office, but in doing so, we gave them more and more flexibility to continue those practices, which are kind of important to them as human beings, that they developed during COVID. So we'll increasingly do things like that, and some attempts have been failed. I mean, at one point I had a brilliant idea of starting an Omnicom bus company to bring everybody in. I could have sent a helicopter for the few people that used it. So that was a pretty failed experiment, but we continue to try things and to do things to make it the best place for people to work.
So you very much come down on the side of flexible working is key in that environment, because a lot of people, Jamie Dimon, for instance, came out very strongly against that in recent weeks. Donald Trump has voiced his concerns over it. But your perspective is very much flexible working is key to retain talent, to encourage talent to be the best that they can be.
I think in both cases, they have different needs and agendas than Omnicom does. But
And mergers can be a disruptive time for existing talent.
yes.
What is in place to assure top talent at all these companies that their position or their role within Omnicom or IPG is secure?
Sure. We're in a funny period because of the rules surrounding regulatory approvals. Hopefully we'll pass some of those hurdles in the next months, because we've certainly filed for all of them. It prohibits us from getting as granular as we'd like to in being able to tell people what's in it for them in the future. During this regulatory period, we both have to individually run our companies as if the merger was not going to happen. And so it does leave employees a little unsettled, especially when you throw the word acquire into the equation. But it's going to be a meritocracy where the best talent is going to emerge in the leadership positions. And there's a real need to communicate. And now that we just did it right before the holidays, that was an unfortunate bit of timing in terms of being able to get on the road and communicate. But there's a full-blown communication plan where we're going to be getting out and saying as much as the lawyers and regulators will allow us to say, to give people that assurance. I think I've said since the announcement of the merger that if you were in a revenue-generating position, if you were working on a client the day before the merger, your job is actually safer with the merger than it might have been before, because we have more tools to keep that client relationship. And I can't send that message out to the people working in either of the companies enough. There'll be plenty of seats, plenty of career opportunities for all the important people in both organizations, and we hope to keep as much of that talent as possible.
And John, we were talking backstage about playing golf.
No.
You've previously mentioned you could have easily coasted to retirement at this stage in your career. Why did you choose to do this for you? What's driving you?
Sure. Well, I've been extremely fortunate. I've been the CEO of Omnicom for 30 years, and a public company that's unheard of. It's made me successful. It's made me wealthy. And I take none of that for granted. I owe Omnicom basically most of the success that I've experienced. And with that comes an obligation to build it and leave it with the best assets, tools, employees that I can possibly do. And that's why this IPG merger is so attractive to me. I mean, Omnicom, if you were only concerned with this year or next year, was doing just fine without the disruption of a merger. And it would have been very happy, and some of the investors and others are a little bit confused as to why we actually took the action to do the merger. But the tools, the possibilities of the size, and what being big for big purposes is not important. Whether I'm 287 or 87 really is not on my agenda of things to cure. But it's going to create, with the rapid change and with technology, and with the relationship that we have with the Googles and the Metas of the world, and sometimes they're competitive and sometimes they're not, we've elected to partner with them in the development of the things that they're investing in. And I want to leave every employee in the new Omnicom with the most state-of-the-art tools that are humanly possible to aid them in servicing their clients. And I want to distinguish us in a way that we've not been able to distinguish ourselves in this competitive environment that we operate in that having the depth of assets that we will have no one will be able to replicate that. When you look at the history, the creative history, the information that the campaigns that we've created, the type of talent that has been part of the company and its DNA, that is immeasurable in terms of attracting the talent for tomorrow, but also in aiding and servicing the clients of today. I mean, those libraries of information and how you can manipulate them, especially with technology, are extraordinary. You know.
John, that's a great legacy to aim for, and thank you very much for your time. Everyone, John Wren.
My pleasure. Thank you. That's good.